Like, are you signing the checks?
If I was cutting the checks for Nathan, you'd call me and be like, Raspberry, this check has bounced.
With 3 weeks left to go, we're heading into week 19 of the CFL regular season. This is Placed on the 55. I'm Jon. This is Jess. Jess, last week we had 3 games. I finished 2-1. Saskatchewan helped me out last game of the week. What was your record?
1-2. And that Saskatchewan game burned me because they only won by 4, and I had the Edmontons to win that game. The spread was only 2.5, so I fell short.
The Hamilton game on Friday, that one I watched bell to bell, and it was the outcome I expected. I thought Hamilton would lose that one. I didn't expect Winnipeg to be quite as dominating as they were. They look like a really strong team.
Considering they were 0-4 in the season, pick up the CFL in week 5 on. They have 10 wins on the season. The next best is Montreal with 11 wins on the season.
And then BC. I'd like to dive into that game a little bit. Your Lions Den is looking pretty sweet. I noticed you added another bit of flair with the Flutie jersey.
Yeah, he's the best player in the CFL. So even though it's not a BC Lions Flutie jersey, but which I do had one rather, but it just got so old.
How did you end up procuring the Buffalo Bills Flutie jersey?
I think a friend gave it to me.
Was that friend's first name Doug, and did he throw it to you in the stands?
I wish.
All right, so back to the BC game. Have you looked at Nathan's stats at all? Over the last 4 games, 218, no touchdowns, no interceptions. And then 264, none and none. 110, none and none. His only touchdown came on that Labor Day weekend win, where he had 3 interceptions as well. He's got 4 touchdowns, 7 interceptions, whereas VA's got 14 touchdowns and 7 interceptions. I don't really know about this 1 and 2 quarterback situation in BC because it's not evident which player is number 1 to me.
I know. If I had to guess, you're a VA fan over Nathan. But I can just tell that you prefer VA, and if you were coaching the Lions, I think you would put him in, wouldn't you?
I think I would. Yeah, I think with this team and his chemistry, it was better. Yeah, I get it. Nathan was great back in 2022, but different roster back then, different people catching the ball.
Well, and then before Vernon Adams got injured, people were talking about him being an MOP candidate. You also don't want to bench the highest paid player in the league either. So it's a real tough call for Rick Campbell.
This is Monday. We're recording this, and the BC Lions are heading into the playoffs. They've clinched a spot. They're going to be either 3rd or 2nd at this point. News isn't out yet who's starting. If the coach comes out and says VA, I'm not going to be surprised. There's just been no production out of Nathan. On the season, I'm sitting 38-32. You're sitting 31-39.
I'd have to run the season to get to 500 then, right?
Well, there's 12 games left in the season. So at best, you're looking at 43-39 at this point.
So if I go 3-1, 3-1, 3-1, that should get me back up there.
That would get you to 40-42.
Ugh. All right. Well, it's been a tough year. What can I say?
It's been a tough season.
Great people have tough seasons, says Dave Dickinson.
And then you add in spreads, and it's, spreads make all the difference. You're either getting or losing points, and there's been close games this year.
And I've been burned a handful of times on either 0.5 point or a point.
Or 1.5 points like last week. All right, so jumping into Week 19, Game 1, Toronto, they're getting a few points here, if I recall. What are we looking at?
Yeah, they're 3.5 point underdogs.
Against the Bombers in Princess Auto. Do you think the Bombers, I know you believe that they can't just skate through the rest of this season, but are they going to have as much fire knowing that they've clinched first and they could kind of rest some people and maybe get some rust off a couple others?
That's the problem with finishing first so quickly. There's still 3 weeks left, and the next meaningful game they're going to play is the Western Final in 5 weeks. You're almost going to take 5 weeks off. O'Shea's group's not going to let him do that. I mean, they're going to start resting players at some point. Most of these games this week, as we're getting into the last part of the CFL, don't mean anything as far as moving around in the schedule. Argos do have something to win this game for. They are currently sitting at 8-7. And they're behind Ottawa, who is 8-6-1. So Ottawa's ahead of Toronto by a mere 1 point because of that tie. Toronto can still catch Ottawa and host a game at BMO, and they can get their 15,000 fans out there to cheer for them and whatever.
They can also close the door on the Hamilton's hopes of playoffs this week. Hamilton's sitting out. They got the bye. And if Toronto wins, Hamilton can't catch them. Remember, Toronto has to finish 1-3 in their last 4, while Hamilton has to finish.
I think Hamilton's been eliminated.
No, they're still in it. Hamilton still has a
But
chance.
it's still mathematically, yeah, you're right. So that being said, Toronto's got something to play for, so they can hold on, not only clinch a playoff berth, keep pace with the Ottawas, but are 3.5-point favorites. O'Shea's group, they're definitely not going to give up, but I don't think he's going to be resting too many players now. And they're at home. I like him to cover that 3.5 points. So I'll take the Bombers.
It's a good bet. I don't blame you for taking that one. Because like you, I thought this was a tough game. I'm going to go with Toronto. I always say Toronto. I put the R before the O.
Oh, you could be like Don Cherry and pronounce it Toronto.
Toronto.
Yeah, and he loved Toronto. He wasn't doing it he wasn't trying to make fun of them. That's just the way he talked.
Just mumbly on my side. So Toronto, I think, is going to win this game. And my guess is a close game. Winnipeg doesn't have much to play for, but pride. These guys are still getting paid to win and play, and they want to show up. Chad Kelly, I don't know about that guy. He's hot and cold, and I think he's going to be hot enough this weekend to get them a win, which means my Tabbies are going to get eliminated this week, and that sucks.
It sucks considering that was your Grey Cup pick, and they're not even going to make the freaking playoffs.
They made it exciting towards the end. I mean, they're not out yet. Toronto could lose and next week we could be like, oh my God, Tabbies are playing. I just don't see it happening. I think this is the door. It's shutting, and Kelly's going to grasp that knob firmly and slam it in their face. Game 2.
Speaking about a game about just for pride, this game's 100% for pride because both teams are 100% out of the playoffs.
My notes say Edmonton, Calgary. Who cares?
Yeah, I know. It's going to be a bad crowd in Calgary. I know Dave Dickinson cares, but I also know so does Jarius. Edmonton is our 1.5 underdogs, so Calgary's favored by 1.5 points. Game's in McMahon. Now, I'm switching my mind, actually. I'm going to pick the Elks. They're going to come down from Edmonton. These guys love rubbing it in the face of opposing or home team's fans. So these guys I think they're going to be up to it. Same time, Dickinson's going to go in there and say, hey, if you guys want a job next year up here, you got to show me something.
And they might be looking at Dickinson saying, hey, if you want a job here next year, you gotta show me something.
That's why he's going to be pushing his team still.
Is he wearing 2 hats right now? Is he coach and GM?
He might be, because John Huffnagel retired a while ago. If he's both, I would fire the coach and stay up in the booth as GM.
I think Jarius, like you said, he has something to play for. Give me Edmonton. Are they getting points? No, they got to be.
Yeah, they are. They're underdogs by 1.5.
That's really surprising. I didn't think Calgary could ever be favored again this season.
Get this. This is the first time in modern CFL history where both teams from Alberta have missed the playoffs.
That's a big deal for Alberta. Okay, so Edmonton and Edmonton, both of us, eh?
Yeah, that's good. It's a 1-0 game, so it's a wash between you and I.
Game 3, that's the BC-Saskatchewan game, and that's the one where we're just going to wipe our schedules and be glued to the TV. I don't watch a lot of games live, but I'll be watching this one live.
It's certainly the game of the week for sure. It's the only game that really means something in the schedule, or the standings rather. Saskatchewan's got their stuff together, and they're at home at Mosaic. Maybe I'm betting with my heart from what I might be wearing. But I'm going to take the Lions. I hope Nathan Rourke gets it together.
We know where your heart gets you. Oh, man. Last week, watching the BC Lions O-line protect, Nathan was just horrendous. 5 guys were getting run over by 3 defensive linemen. It was just terrible. So
it's the same line that Vernon Adams was dealing with.
Yeah, but how do 3 pass rushers get by 5 offensive linemen? That's 3 to 5. That means there's 10 arms stopping 3 guys, and they just get through. I just don't see them winning this game. I think Saskatchewan's going to win it. And I think there's going to be that big turmoil of quarterback halfway through, because maybe it is 30-10 and you got to put VA in, and all of a sudden you have all this uncertainty around the quarterback position.
Not yet, but he didn't play all last year either.
But he's played 4 games and he's got 1 touchdown.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'm willing to give him a little bit more.
You have got a long leash for that guy.
Yeah.
Like, are you signing the checks for Nathan and you're invested here and that's why you want to keep him in? What's going on?
Yeah. If I was cutting the checks for Nathan, he wouldn't be playing for us. He'd be calling me and be like, Raspberry, this check has bounced. What the hell's going on? I'd be like, oh, yeah, well, I'll sign you. I'll give you $500,000, Nathan. Come on up. The signing bonus is actually going to be paid at the end of the season.
So we don't know how they're going to get there, but you're saying BC for the win, or I'm going to hope for the cover and take Saskatchewan.
BC should be bigger underdogs than just 1.5 points, in my opinion.
Yeah, way bigger. Especially in that stadium. Oh my gosh. Okay, Ottawa and Montreal. This is important for Ottawa. Sure, they're in the playoffs, but they'd like to have home field. Their home field's been incredible.
It has.
I think they've only lost one at home, and that was to Montreal. So do they repay the favor and head into Montreal and put a licking on them?
Well, Montreal obviously has nothing to play for. If I were Montreal, I wouldn't be calling my best plays. Or if I had a trick play or something like that up my sleeve, I definitely wouldn't unleash it. I was Montreal, I'd keep my cards close to my chest. Ottawa really needs to win this game. So if I was Montreal, I would be sitting back and observing everything Ottawa is going to do to try and win this game. Because if they're going to probably try and do the same thing a month from now, they're not going to reinvent themselves. Because Ottawa has something to play for, and Montreal doesn't, I'm going to take the Red Blacks.
All right, I see where you're going with that. That's pretty clever, actually. I never thought of that angle. So Montreal comes out, they run the ball a whole bunch, kind of focus on field goals, perhaps, and then they just sit back and observe.
They're probably going to run the ball 35 times, especially if Ottawa can't stop the run. If I were them, I'd run on first down almost every single time. If it's 2nd and 8, then you throw. And if it's 2nd and 3, run it again.
I think Montreal, they're going to run a lot and cover that spread. Montreal it is for me.
Okay, interesting.
Well, with it being week 19, we got 3 weeks left in the regular season. Have we come to like an official position? Are we going to keep track of our betting going into the playoffs as like our season total? Or are we going to say, here's our regular season outcome, reset, here's our playoff outcome?
I don't know. I mean, I would take it by the regular season, and then the playoffs are a different beast.
There's only 5 games in the playoffs. Let's get through the regular season, take a look at our records, and then decide for certain. If you want to write a suggestion and tell us how we should add up our season and playoff totals, you can at placedon the55pod@gmail.com.
Considering there's 21 weeks in the season, there's only 3 left, but that went quick.
One of my favorite sayings, stupid time. Talk to you later.
You got it, John.